So Michael Bloomberg then is going to be joining his rivals for the first time on stage later on. What do you think we can expect? What types of attacks?
So Michael Bloomberg comes in a little bit last minute, right? He decided to jump in the race back in November 2019, when most candidates had started in January, February, March last year. So all of them have been on the trail for a very long time, and they see this a multi-billionaire coming in and having and sort of putting out many TV ads and taking percentages in the polls and with ease, and with this sort of centrist lane that he claims to be the only one that could maybe take on Donald Trump. So you can expect the 5 other candidates to really go at him. What they would like of him is just to disappear out and then continue this race without Michael Bloomberg as a target of their attacks. It's going to be the first time for him to be on the debate stage when all of them have this, repetitive training of being out there and putting forward their ideas. So there's a lot of surprises to be expected and probably a lot of attacks on Michael Bloomberg.
A lot has been made about how much money he has spent, a lot of his own money, because like you say, he's a multi-billionaire. He's spent about $400 million on advertising so far. Why is that being made such a big deal, though, when you consider that, as far as I understand, in the US, there are no limits on how much a candidate can spend?
So first of all, it's money that he spends of his own money, and it's he spent as much as all the other candidates together. And in a few months, this has allowed him to gain some little percentage in the poll. He's now at 10% nationally if you average out all the different polls. But what's sort of infuriating for many of these candidates is that they spend their time fundraising, and some of them go fundraising with big donors, but many of them, including Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, fundraise with, people giving out $20, $30, and really, making this a people's movement powered by the donations of millions and millions of people. So in a way, but that takes a lot of effort. That takes a lot of effort on part of the campaign. So in many ways, there's resentment just by the fact that he doesn't need to do that. But also the overlying argument against it is that, in one case, it's a people-powered movement. In the other case, it's just the decision of one man, this multi-billionaire. So there's a larger question, a democratic question behind this race of Michael Bloomberg. Maybe on the view of many Democrats, he could save America from Donald Trump. But for many others, is it worth saving America for Donald Trump and just, transforming America's democracy with this possibility for just ultra-rich to just pay their way into the election?
I'd just like to talk about his strategy, because you were in Iowa and New Hampshire recently. He didn't take part in those races. He's not taking part in the first few races. Mm-hmm. What's the thinking behind that then? Because he's already reaching out to a lot of people with his advertising, because as far as I understand, his name has actually showed up in ballots, even though it wasn't actually on the ballot. Sure. So he's already making an impact.
Mm-hmm. So in some cases, there were some writing candidates. So Bloomberg showed up in Iowa, in New Hampshire, and now in Nevada and South Carolina, it might be the case too. What's happening is that he's decided, because he came in late, he's decided that the 4 first races of the month of February, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina, he could just skip through. And so he's going directly to Super Tuesday. The thinking behind it is that there's so many delegates in Super Tuesday, it's going to just overcome whatever minimal number of delegates you can reach with this very little amount that, it was 41 delegates being awarded proportionally in Iowa. So at best, you have 8 or 9 out of this. California, on the opposite, is more than 400 delegates. So if you have a big score in California, it's way more important than Iowa. But it's unprecedented. People like momentum, like the fact of having a winner's win. So you see that there was already winners coming out of these first 2 races.
Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg
being 1 and 2nd, but also Amy Klobuchar, because she's outperformed being third in New Hampshire. And you can see the excitement on the ground. If he were able to do that, to pull this very unprecedented move, it will change, I believe, the face of primaries in America. You will see a rethinking in 4 years because it will have diminished the importance of those 4 early states. But the argument for these 4 early states and this long primary season over time is that candidates have to be on the ground. They have to meet the people. They have to be submitted to town halls. They have to, take selfies like Elizabeth Warren does.
But some of these first states, sorry to interrupt, aren't exactly representative of the country either. So maybe it's giving them too much importance.
Well, that's the argument behind the Iowa failure as well, that the caucus was not even successful in putting out results. And maybe Iowa is not representative because it's, 85% rural and white, right, and not representative of a larger democratic movement. But you have Nevada with a large part of Latino voters coming in, and then South Carolina with a big African-American community. So yes, there's an argument on why would these states have this much of an importance. But what you have to understand is that if all primaries were on the same day, with a country as large as the US, and with Democrats being so prominent in the coast, in California, in New York, you would have campaigns only digital, only on TV because it's so many people, and only on the coast with huge rallies. What you have there with those early states is canvassing, is people coming out and meeting other people, is town halls, is being able, and I did it in Iowa and New Hampshire, of approaching very, very closely these candidates and really testing them over months. I think that's what is being questioned behind this move of Michael Bloomberg, which could fail. It's still very early to tell, and he has not been known to be a great debater, so he might not be one tonight.
In a word, do you think we'll know on Super Tuesday?
Sorry?
Do you think we'll know on Super Tuesday who the candidate will be?
I don't think so. There's a high chance that Bernie Sanders will have taken too much of an advance for other people to catch up. And maybe there's going to be a sort of anti-Sanders. So maybe 2 people will come out of Super Tuesday. But I would predict that the confusion continues over March.
And that's in early March. All right.